Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Welcome in Yonballs to the Oddity Shop. I'm your curator, Kara. This is your other person over there, Zach.
Easy for you to say. And this is the podcast where we tell you creepy, odd, weird, strange, perplexing, mind-bending. We got new adjectives today. Stories from around the globe.
Cool. How are you?
I'm doing all right. That's about it. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so my eye has been twitching for 3 days, and it's like a little pulsing like on the bottom.
Oh, doesn't that just make you want to scoop it out with a spoon after a while?
Oh, it makes me want to do something. I'm not quite sure, but yes, it's like really
Eat a
irritating.
banana. You need potassium.
I thought that was for when your leg cramps.
Well, it's for like, I feel like whenever your muscles are doing like little weird spasms, they would say to eat a banana.
I guess it is a muscle, eh?
You're also supposed to eat a banana if you can't sleep, but you're also not supposed to eat a banana before bed because it has sugars, so then you can't sleep.
I don't really like bananas. Like I do, but I don't like the little long stringy things on them, so I have to like cut the banana up because then I don't get it. It's just a long thing.
I do the same thing, but I sit there and peel those little stringies. And like, okay, what end do you open it from?
Are you gonna say you open yours from the bottom? Like not the stem?
I don't know. I want to know what you consider the bottom to be.
So I usually open it from the stem because that's how I was told to do, or that's how it was shown when I was little. However, I did hear that if you open it from the other end, you don't get the stringy things.
That is true. You get a lot less of them. So I open it from the other end, but I don't like that little thing at the very end of the banana.
No, it's disgusting. And it's usually brown.
Yeah, I have to peel it out, and then I don't know what to do with it because it's not a plate food. So I have to like push it into the peel so that it's okay.
Nope, I agree.
Have you watched the show everyone's watching right now? Although when people listen to this, they'll have already watched it. Have you seen Quiet on Set yet?
No.
Have you heard of it?
No.
It's basically everybody who grew up, all the child actors from all that coming out, or in like just Nickelodeon in general. So Jeanette McCurdy and all that, Drake Bell, all coming out to talk about the horrors they endured.
Drake Bell? He's arrested.
Yes.
He's a sexual predator. Why is he on that?
He was also quite badly abused. I'm not even kidding you when I did not close my mouth for 5 minutes watching it. I was just shook.
Did you know any of that stuff before?
I knew a little bit, but it's like when they're talking about it in horrible detail.
No, you know I won't watch that because I'll die, but I know most of that because I follow a lot of them individually. And I mean, like, they pretty much have all kind of separately come out in their own ways, and it's horrifying.
But I will say the other thing in the news that did please me is I was proven wrong because I have been betting, Julia, that Kate Middleton had been passed and replaced with a
you know that wasn't her,
clone.
Right? That was her lookalike. I can't remember her name.
So she did come out today and made a little bit of it was actually a very sad announcement, but she also has cancer.
I don't believe it.
That's what I'm saying a little bit. But I don't know. I'm obsessed with the Windsors. I'm obsessed with everything
I think she wanted
Windsors.
to leave the family, and then she was murdered.
And then they're going to replace her with a lookalike. That's what I was telling Julia, and she argued with me all week. I mean, now, everybody listening, give us grace. We don't know what happened. We're probably going to be a completely different story in 6 weeks. So if we sound like idiots,
here's the thing. I don't even care what the story is in 6 weeks. I don't believe it. They did the same thing to Princess Diana. She wanted to leave. She found a new boyfriend. She was pregnant, and they fucking ran her off the road and killed her. It's the same fucking thing. I bet you she's dead. It's so sad to say. She dead. Okay.
All right. What else you got going on this week? We've had some really depressing shit so far. That's just what I've been obsessed with is Quiet on Set and the Kate Middleton conspiracies.
What have I been obsessed with? Oh, this is not... No, this is... Okay, so I cannot fucking remember what state this was, but a little girl in middle school turned in a project or a report. She had to write a report on people that she looks up to. Or like that she, you know what I mean? Like a celebrity that she looks up to.
Like a role model.
Yes. And so she wrote a report on Jelly Roll and his wife, Bunny. about how they've overcome drugs, addiction, all kinds of stuff. And look where they're at now. Now they're trying to help pass laws, and they're, speaking at the Senate about fentanyl, and they're doing really great things, right? So she writes this report about them, and she draws a little picture. I mean, it's a middle schooler. The picture is just, a little jelly roll face and a bunny. Like, it's nothing elaborate. She's a middle schooler. And she got suspended.
That's insane.
Because she drew a picture of somebody that dresses provocatively at times, even though the picture is just a little bit of a face. And so she got suspended about her, whatever. So anyway, this whole story got to Bunny, and then all these people started rioting, and they figured out what fucking school that was, and it was bad. And all these parents started coming out about all these other allegations of the school and how horrible it is. And like, people are getting like, it's just crazy. So this is so cute.
Could you imagine having like a terrible viral moment like that as a middle schooler?
Yeah, it's awful. But this is why I fucking love Bunny so goddamn much. I don't care what she looks like or what she wears. She's an incredible human being. She gets in contact with the mother, gets the drawing, puts it on a fucking t-shirt, sells it as merch, and gives all the proceeds to the daughter for her like future college fund.
That's amazing.
And it fucking sold out in 2.5 seconds, and it broke the fucking internet, and I couldn't even order one because it wouldn't let me.
Oh my God.
So that was a really cute story that I was obsessed with.
Oh, I have one that I started to talk to you about, but I'll share with everyone. So Julia and I finally booked this trip to go to West Virginia in May.
Mm-hmm.
And so we booked our Airbnb the other night, and the host sent us a message. She's like, so like, what brings you guys to the area? I was like, well, my roommate really loves like, nature and good food and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm really down to check out the Appalachians and like search for anything cryptid related. And he responds back right away. He's like, Zach, my friend, you were the first person to stay here to mention cryptid. For the past 2 days, me and him have been chatting back and forth, and he has shared me every cryptid tale in the area, all the places to go, like how to look for them, all this crazy stuff. I'm like, I found the best host ever.
Did you plug the podcast?
Of course I plugged the podcast.
Good. That's so cute.
Yeah, he knows. He knows, and he got the link.
Yeah, you're probably gonna vanish.
Oh, I'm gonna disappear. I'm gonna go live with the little humanoids in the mountains, apparently.
No, it's not gonna be willingly vanish. You're just gonna vanish.
If a cryptid takes me, I'm telling everybody right now, it was willingly. It
depends on which one. All right. This has been too long. Let's go.
Yes.
What's your question?
I almost said, do you have a question? No, I have a question.
Okay. What's your question?
Do you think time exists as we understand it, where the past is the past, the present is right now only, and the future is yet to come?
Absolutely not, homie.
Explain.
I can't. I can't. Time is stupid. Time don't make sense. It's not real.
It's not. All right. We're talking about time weirdness, but I am going to pull it into how it relates to hauntings.
Okay.
In what we're going to call temporal anomalies.
Ooh.
So,
Yes, I'm ready.
So we're going to start with the definition of what time is from Wikipedia, because I love me some wiki. Time is the continued sequence of existence and events that occurs in an apparently irreversible succession from the past through the present and into the future. Then it gets really wild. It is a component quantity of various measurements used to sequence events to compare the duration of events or the intervals between them, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The last sentence here is time is often referred to as the fourth dimension, along with the three spatial dimensions.
Okay.
Okay. So like some of the earliest human tools we know were clocks or timekeeping. Like time has been ruling and governing human life since the beginning.
Which I just don't understand.
So, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like we govern our entire lives by the time, right? Like we know we have to do this by then. Like it makes sense as far as like a productivity and like almost understanding the world we live in, that we've constructed time the way it is. But it might be less of like a hard and fast rule and more of just like a tool we use.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Alrighty.
Well, this is going to make it really easy because I have a whole part here about where you're going to have to suspend your disbelief, but you already bought in. I don't even know what to put in here. You believe everything. But there's plenty of physicists that would argue, right, that our current understanding of time, even the fact that we call it the fourth dimension, where it's like this linear thing, right, is nothing but a construct to like understand our existence. So a gentleman named Max Tegmark is like one of the profound sort of physicists who goes into all this. And he's like, actually, time is just an illusion and it only exists because of human memory, which makes sense. We can't predict the future because we don't have memory of it. The present is fleeting because it's always going right into your memory, and then your memory holds all of the past.
Okay.
So he explains, right, like when you're looking at time, that everything that has happened, is happening, or will happen is actually all happening at once.
Yes.
Which is impossible to wrap our minds around, which is why we've constructed it the way we do. But there's no laws of physics that we know that you can actually apply to govern that time should only move in one direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole nother theory. We're not going to get into it more than just this one sentence because it just went right over my head. But it's called the Big Crunch theory. That actually says like when the universe is always expanding, but they actually think that when the universe stops expanding, that time is going to reverse and actually move the opposite way, which would be wild. I don't even understand how that would work.
Oh.
But Max, who we were talking about, he doesn't quite go that far, but he kind of says the universe is more like this block universe where space and time are deeply connected, obviously, space-time. And he uses evidence of Einstein's theory of relativity, where he predicts that space and time are both part of the 4D structure, and that everything that has, is, or will happen all have their own coordinates on basically like a map.
Okay.
Right. So instead of thinking it as a line, think of it more of like the map, and every event is like a city.
Okay.
Right. So if you walked from one city to another city, for you, it would appear that one of them happened and is now gone and you can never go back. And the place that you're in is the present, and the place that you're heading to is the future.
Okay. I guess in my brain, and maybe, I don't know if you'll get into anything like this, but in my brain, I think of it as layers.
Yes. So we're going to get it.
Okay.
There's another way. When he's saying everything has its own coordinate on a map in this block theory, that there are multiple blocks then stacked on top of each other. So it is layered. Oh,
so it is kind of like layered. Okay.
Yeah. You're going into like the 8th grade level. We're staying here at like 1st grade level just to try to make it visual for people. But no, I mean, it's one of those things. It's so, because we can't conceptualize a dimension other than the one we live in, it's so hard to like say it, right? So some people say it's layers. Others say it's fabric or a map, whatever. But what they're really trying to say is that, like, if you could perceive it outside of human perception, you could technically see that all things are happening all at once. It's just when you are able to perceive them, then how you make sense of what you're perceiving.
Okay.
That's as far as we're getting into that. Does that at least make sense on how the past, present, and future could theoretically happen at the same time?
Yes, kind of, yes.
Perfect. I'm not a physicist. I'm going to imagine most of the people listening are not. That's what we're going to pretend to believe for the rest of this episode. All right. So suspend all other disbelief. Like, we're just
it's a map.
Go with it. It's a map or layers or whatever, but we're just going to pretend everything can happen all at once and go with that theory through this. Okay.
Got it.
So then further, if you're going to say that you believe in ghosts and the paranormal, if we add in the perception that time is always happening, that could mean when you're getting evidence of a haunting or other paranormal activity, it's more than just an alive human investigating and communicating with a deceased human from the past, right? What are your thoughts on that so far?
Oh, I'm loving it.
If you sort of accept the theory, right, that time can happen all at once, like, it throws so much of paranormal investigating into an entirely new realm of our understanding of talking to ghosts. It could be so many different things. So I found a couple different stories for you that sent me, well, the first one is what sent me down the rabbit hole that reminded me of some of these other ones, but it's mind-blowing stuff. So have you ever heard of Kalani Smith, that ghost hunter from Hawaii? He does a lot of like YouTube and Instagram stuff.
I don't think so.
Okay. So he's like part influencer, part paranormal researcher. And he's been hunting for years, and he did a podcast recently the podcast is called The Relentless Pursuit. He was on episode 83.
Okay.
And it's like hours long. They talk about a ton of different stuff. But when he starts to get into ghost hunting, he was talking about some like the weirder things that have ever happened to him. So I actually came across this because my boss sent me a TikTok of a clip from the podcast. And she's like, this is so episode worthy. Yes, Christina, you were right.
Oh, do I know who you're talking about?
My boss?
No, this TikTok, because I think I had said something and you're like, oh my God, just hold your thought on that.
Yes, I did start to talk to you about it.
Okay.
he's starting to talk about one of the wildest things that happened to him, and he was communicating with something, and what caught me on it, he goes, instead of it being behind me, it was in front of me, right? And I'm thinking at first like he's talking physically, but it is so not.
Ooh.
Okay, so this event that happened to him at a funeral home in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and him and his wife are doing the Estes method, right? Okay. So the wife's under, he's asking questions, she's responding. Mind you, she can't, Estes method. She can't hear him. She can't see him. She's just going with what's coming through the spirit box.
So for those of you that don't know the Estes method, if you're new here, you have a spirit box. It does radio wavelengths. You're plugged into headphones that you can't hear anybody else. The other person asks questions, and then the person that's under, like Zach said, is just spitting out whatever words they're hearing.
They're also blindfolded, so they can't see or hear. Yeah.
Yes, so you're immersed.
So they're starting to get some intelligent responses, and this, let's say, entity instead of spirit, this entity starts to introduce himself. So he says his name is Raymond. Mm-hmm. And Kalani is talking about it, and he's like, one of the things I always do is I always try to figure out where they are, where they were from. He goes, so I asked him what year it was. And he goes, and then I got extremely confused because the answer was 2082. Mm. He's like, I thought I heard it wrong at first. We had it confirmed, 2082. So it's like, then I realized something really weird was happening because Raymond, the, in quotes, spirit we were talking to, starts to ask me to knock on the wall to give him signs that I'm present. So Kalani has like an oh shit moment.
I have goosebumps right now. That has to be so, I don't even know what word, I don't know what the word is, but that has to be so just
paradigm shifting. This has to be paradigm shifting.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it just changes the way you view all this. So Kalani, in his present, right, is realizing that Raymond in 2082 thinks that he is the ghost. It's like so ass crazy. Backwards ghost hunting.
That's so cool, though.
Right? So Kalani starts to ask this guy in 2082, he gets smart and he goes, what's your grandfather's name? Mm-hmm. So from Raymond, he gets the name, the city, and the state. Kalani goes on Facebook and actually finds this guy. City's right, state's right, name's right. He goes, so I'm creeping through his social medias and he's liking and interacting with all these pages that deal with physics, dimensional theory, astral projection, on and on and on.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just I can't move past this because he asked for this guy Raymond's grandpa.
Yes,
because
if Raymond is in 2082,
yep,
his father, assuming he was 30, right, would be born in.
Yep. Oh God, that is so much.
I had to do the same thing too.
Okay, I'm so glad you just did it that way because I can completely understand. Yes. Awesome. Okay,
so he starts finding some of the posts, and the last post he can find from the grandfather is in one of those Facebook groups about the interdimensional shit. Okay. And he just said, this is getting too dangerous. I have to go. And that's the last post he could find.
Do you feel the most powerful and beautiful with the elements of the earth around you? Do you like one-of-a-kind jewelry? Do you sometimes feel like a woodland fairy? Me too. That's why I created Holly and Hemlock, a magical shop filled with handmade wooden jewelry and metaphysical tools. Come check out our enchanting wooden wares at www.hollyhemlock.com and join us in honoring the magic and beauty of nature with each unique creation. That's www.hollyhemlock.com.
Yikes. And then what year was that post?
This podcast came out really recently,
24 or whatever, but I wonder when that post of the grandfather
he was. Didn't really say, and unfortunately, because it's on a podcast, I couldn't get much more follow-up than that. That's kind of where that story ends. Then he goes into some others, but I'm like, that's wild, right? So now, think about all the people who investigate all these places, and you're getting some really weird interaction. It almost reminded me, have you ever seen the movie, sorry, spoiler alert's coming, The Others? Mm-hmm. It gave me vibes of that, where it's like, you don't know who is haunting who.
Exactly. Yeah, that movie tripped me up in that. I kind of figured it out pretty quickly into the movie, but I will say, once you figure it out, it really mind trips you.
This to me is like some of the coolest stuff I think in the paranormal high strange world.
Yeah, I agree.
Because anything paranormal, we don't have
definitive answers.
We don't have the definitive answers. Like, you can have an overwhelming amount of evidence that is saying, hey, this is likely a spirit from whenever,
Okay,
but we don't know how any of it works.
Okay, maybe you're going to answer this so you can just punch me. But why then do you think that we don't have more, like, on all these investigations that we watch and we hear of, and all these people that, like, you know, we love listening to about all this stuff? Why don't we have more of them that have these types of experiences? Because they always ask, what year is it for you?
So I will get into that a little bit more after the next story, because the next two stories, you actually know both the investigators. Know one of them, know of both of them really well.
All right, let's go.
So honestly, so that TikTok, right, that Christina sent me, that I went down my rabbit hole, and it reminded me of the first Paracon that I went to, where I got to see Grant Wilson speak, and he did like a 5-minute on something really close to this. And I had to find it. So I was searching through. I finally found on YouTube a 2-minute clip of somebody interviewing him after. It's actually Darkness Radio interviewing him about it. And that linked me to Grant posted a whole 10-minute YouTube video. All of this stuff is in the resources. If you guys have never clicked on our resources before, click on the YouTube links for this one. They're all short and they're all going to be really interesting. I promise you. Okay. Found this old video from Grant where he's talking about they were investigating. They were, was during Ghost Hunter days, but there weren't, this one wasn't filmed. And a lot of the Ghost Hunter guys have come out and said, hey, we did a lot of residential stuff that wasn't for TV. These were people who needed help.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why, like, TV is always looking for the monsters or the ghosts in that. I think that's why we don't get some of this on there, because you feel like you lose more people on temporal anomalies than you are in spirits. But Grant is taking a trainee through this house. It's him, one of the more seasoned researchers or investigators, and then one of the trainees. They know that the guest bedroom is a place that has high activity.
Okay.
So the three of them, they're making their way towards the bedroom. And as they kind of like, it's on a hallway, right? So they're turning from the hallway into the bedroom. They see in the room the shadowy figure standing on the far side of the room between the bed and the wall.
Okay.
Trainee looks at it and goes, I'm out. Turns around, books it.
That's not a good first day.
No. Grant and this other investigator, they're like, let's check it out. So they kind of mosey on up to it, and it hadn't moved yet. It was just like still. It was obviously human shaped, but it's just like a shadow. So Grant's like, I took my arm out and reached through it. He said it felt cold, it felt staticky, but as my hand entered into it, this thing sprang up, went as far as it could around us, around the bed, and then out of the room.
That is crazy.
Okay. That's the first half of the story.
Okay. I mean, I obviously know where this is going because you can envision it, but it's wild.
Yeah. A couple weeks later, they go back to do a follow-up investigation. Grant's having a discussion with the trainee and is encouraging them, hey, you know what? You got to be strong. You got to get through this. I think you should go and check out the bedroom by yourself.
Oh my God.
Now, mind you, she saw the spirit originally. She turned around and ran. She has no idea what happened next after she left that room.
Good point. Okay.
Okay. She goes up into the room the second time around. She goes alone. She's up there for about a minute. Comes back to Grant with a really interesting story. So she explained she was standing in the room between the bed and the wall. She notices 3 shadowy figures turn from the hallway, go into the room. As soon as these 3 shadows come into the room where she's standing, one of them back into the hallway and runs. She's now frozen in fear. She said as she's there standing frozen in fear, the other 2 shadowy entities come up to her, and she stood there trying to be brave until one of the entities' arms came out and went into her chest.
And she booked it.
At which point, she ran around the 2 shadows so she could get out of the room, into the hallway, and back down to Grant.
I would have pooped my pants when she told me that story.
Mind-blowing, though. I mean, so what the first people saw was the trainee a few weeks later, and what the trainee saw was the investigators a few weeks in the past.
That's crazy.
And so he's like, every investigator, you know, whether it's on TV or not, and this is why I told you to wait. Grant literally says this. Everyone has had something that works like this, and because nobody truly understands how this works, it doesn't get airtime. He's actually the one who came up with the temporal anomaly name for this, Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but I even mean like on like the YouTube videos and stuff we watch. They don't really care. You know what I mean? I just mean in general. It seems strange.
Right.
We don't have any
so much more of this.
Yeah.
Right.
But I get where he's coming from.
So anyways, here's where your layers come in, because Grant gave a really good definition of this. He said it's a phenomenon where two periods of time somehow overlap and cause a bleed-through effect between the two layers. So essentially, you experience somebody in their time period and they experience you in yours when they shouldn't cross, but something allows them to kind of fold over each other
a little. Ooh.
He had actually another short story of another thing that happened. So they were investigating the Washington Hotel, and they were started to get really long-winded EVP answers with intelligent responses from a woman who claims to be in the early 1900s. They're asking questions. They start to get responses, and like they're getting 1.5-minute, 2-minute long EVPs.
That's crazy. That does not happen.
Right. So they ask if she could hear them, and she responds, "Of course I can, but where are you?"
Ooh.
Then, like, they had asked, like, how she passed or something, and she kept saying, "I'm not dead, I'm alive, and I'm very confused." And then threatened to get security to clear out the people so she could, or to clear out the people she could hear but couldn't see.
What?
Dude, it's so weird.
That is really
And that's
strange.
the other thing, I think, too, is, like, where you were saying, why don't other, investigators or YouTubers or whatever talk about it? They probably don't understand it's happening. They think they're just having EVPs. I feel like you have to have a really specific set of, like, an environment that allows this to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But it gets really, really weird. He even kind of went on to explain, like, if these are temporal things, who's to say that alien interactions aren't some of these and you're just interacting with beings from the future or, cryptids and all that kind of stuff.
That's what I've always thought, is that aliens are just us from, you know what I mean? That's just...
Right? The one thing he didn't have an answer for, though, is explaining why then we don't have run-ins with, like, ghost dinosaurs. If it's all temporal things, which would make me shit my pants immediately.
But that's a really good question.
Yeah, but could you imagine? What if you're just like, you're walking to the store or something, turn a corner, and boom, ghost raptor?
Oh my
I'd poop.
God, that would be
I'd poop
fucking
right away.
amazing.
But I mean, like, if you start to even accept this, right, not only does it fuck up the entire way you look at paranormal, like, it totally messes up the entire way you interact with or experience the world.
I
to me, this is like, it's mind-blowing.
No, it is. It's crazy.
Okay, I have one more for you.
Okay.
And I've tried to tell you this story before, I think.
Okay.
But this comes from none other than our boy, John Tenney.
Ooh, Tennels.
Our favorite weirdo. Before he did the What's Up Weirdo podcast, obviously he's been a lecturer, investigator, everything forever. He had a podcast called The Realm of the Weird.
Mm-hmm.
None of it's hosted by any podcast host anymore. You can't find it on any of the players, but you can find every episode on YouTube.
Oh.
Go binge them all.
Okay, I will.
They're all like 10 to 15 minutes. Every one of them will leave you with goosebumps. And it's just, he's such a great storyteller.
He is. His voice is great.
And just like the way he like builds everything up. I don't know. I love it. It's terrifying. Don't listen to it at night when you're driving by yourself. Mm-mm. I made that mistake. But in episode, there's technically 3 seasons of it.
Okay.
But episode 7, season 1 is called The Children. Mm-hmm. Only a 9-minute listen. Once again, that's in the notes. I'm going to give you the condensed version. He starts the story by explaining how people would like write or call in and ask him for help investigating different paranormal, high strange things, and that he would go investigate and try to give them answers. In 2001, he gets a voicemail from a woman who is requesting help with some ghost children she was dealing with.
Okay.
So in November of that year, he looks into her case. He does some research before he goes out there. So he finds that her and her husband have been the only owners of the home. They have lived there for 50 years. And before that, it was undeveloped land. So no other houses, no other people lived there.
Okay.
So he decides to pay her a visit. And the first time he visits her, she's in her 70s. He learns that her husband has passed.
No.
And that they never had kids, that she basically lives alone in the house. And he starts to almost get the feeling that like maybe there's not a whole lot actually going on, that she might just be a little bit lonely because she makes him tea. And he says, for every question I asked her, she asked me 2 back. Right. I
think he might have talked about this on What's Up Weirdo, because I remember him telling this story in some way. But yeah.
He's getting to know her a little bit, and she keeps talking about the well-behaved children that she experiences in her home.
It's so funny that she calls them well-behaved.
Yeah. She was looking for help getting to the bottom of whatever it was. She said, I'm not frightened. I'm more curious and I just want proof that I'm not crazy.
Oh.
So she talked about how the ghost children, she called them her little ghosties. The little ghosties would run up and down the hall playing and laughing. Sometimes they would knock things over, and that they must sleep all night and go to ghost school because they're only active during the afternoons and weekends.
Ghost school?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
And she has all these details. So she says there's one boy, he's the most well-behaved, and that the two girls seem to cause most of the mess. So nothing happens when he's there the first time. He decides to go back to do a full investigation. She's like, I'm going to go stay at the hotel. The house is yours. You know, you can be alone in here. He learned, too, that since the couple weeks had passed, the kids had knocked over a plant and turned on the cold water tap in the bathroom.
How are they well behaved?
Well, they're having fun.
I know.
Remember, I think she kept saying that because she didn't want them to leave.
Maybe,
she just wanted to know.
It's going to be okay.
So he does a full investigation, and over the entire 24 hours, he finds nothing. I mean, videos, pictures, EVPs, all that kind of stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary came up.
Okay.
So he calls her and says, I'm unable to catch anything. And she goes, well, I don't want you to waste any more time on me. But they do agree that in a month that they would get together and get tea so she could catch him up.
That's so precious. I love Tenney.
And that's so Tenney. Yeah.
So Tenney.
A couple months goes by and he never hears from her. He gives her a call and finds out that she had kind of fallen on some ill health, but she still wanted to have tea.
Okay.
So he heads over and they're just catching up. They're discussing. And she explains that her little, that she's learned to love her little ghosties even more, and that she realizes that they just love the house. And she says that I can just tell as it's getting closer to winter that they are so excited to see the snow.
This is so precious.
So she goes to get more tea, and as he's waiting for her to come back, he's looking out the window watching the snow fall and notices a smudge on the window. John walks up to it, breathes across the bottom of the window, and realizes the entire thing is covered in handprints.
Little ones.
So she comes back into the room and she says, oh, this is nothing new. I told you, they are just so excited for the snow.
Okay.
And that's when she says, she actually starts cleaning them right in front of him before he can take any pictures, and says, they're here for me, and I don't need anybody else to justify this. No more research.
Oh.
So a few years later, John does see her obituary in the local paper.
Oh.
And a couple years after that, on a whim, just decides to stop by the house and see if they're experiencing anything.
I know where this is going. I have goosebumps everywhere.
He knocks on the door. A woman about 35 answers. He explains who he is, why he's there. And as they're talking, he kind of glances past her and looks in the living room and notices cartoons on the TV. And he says, oh, do you have kids? And she goes, yeah, I have 2 little girls and a young boy.
Of course.
And he kind of looks at her and she finishes by telling him that they've just moved here from Arizona and the kids are so excited to see the snow. Oh,
I have goosebumps.
Straight
everywhere.
goosebumps.
I'm dead. That's so cute.
And it's the same thing, though, that we've been talking about, where it's more of like, it's not a time slip because the people aren't experiencing time slips themselves. But it's like 2 different periods of time somehow overlap and just lay across each other and just bleed through in the same location.
Yeah, that's
wild.
wild.
It's so freaking wild to me.
I love it. That's so good.
I did find somebody on Reddit who said, talking about these kind of theories, and he said, I like to think of time as less of a line and more as like a ray of light shooting straight up. It's all happening at once, but in some places that veil is thinner, and we've made time our construct of it to keep our brains from exploding because we can't understand the ray. And then he goes on to say, and time travel exists because time isn't real.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's so fucking true. Like, the only reason we have and measure and count time the way we do is because humans have constructed it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not real.
We've always talked about ghosts, right? Residual, intelligent, intentional. Maybe there's so much more to it, like that it's all space-time bending in weird ways, and we're just somehow getting a glimpse into different times.
I do. I think that it can kind of be all of it. You know what I mean? Because there's so much different crap going around, and we just don't know. We're never going to know. Right.
Like, it gave me a couple of thoughts on things, and I want to see if you agree with any of them.
Okay.
Mandela effects.
Oh, yeah. Those. Yeah.
Right, because that to me is some like I always thought about it as someone changing the time, but is that maybe more where like whatever those layers are get permanently twisted and now we can't undo it?
Yeah, maybe.
Right, like that's why we remember two different things. It's less of falling into another dimension or, you know, just mass hallucination. Maybe it's where the layers have just gotten stuck.
Yeah,
and all of
I
a sudden,
definitely don't ever think that it's mass.
Oh no.
You know what I was trying to say.
There was a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Looms logo.
Yeah,
for
some
sure.
girl on TikTok had it on her shirt. She proved it.
I need to see that. The other thing I was thinking about is ESP and psychics and mediums and all that. I wonder if it's less that they're able to
like
get messages from spirits, but somehow they're more sensitive to seeing those breaks in time.
Yeah.
Right. And they can see into the future, see into the past, or all those things happening all at once a little more clearly than other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting.
And then does this mean that time travel would be possible?
Well, I think you just said that in that one sentence 5 sentences ago when it said time travel is real because time isn't.
Right. But like, then how do we do it? Because I think if I had any superpower, I'd be able to travel in time.
That would be really cool. Well, I guess you got to start practicing that. I have no idea how.
Don't worry, I'll come and tell you 10 years ago.
I'll say you've done all the research. Start knocking on
But
things.
like, I don't know. Something about this is like, it's really exciting to me in a way that it's really mind blowing because it's like, it changes the paradigm of which you look at anything paranormal.
It's really wild.
But yes, that's 3 evidences right there for you of temporal anomalies.
Well, good job.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So really quick, because you said earlier, that's so Tenney. Like, yeah, that's so Tenney. I don't know if you saw this, but you know how, and we don't know any of the verbiage because we're old, but coded. People say coded now. That's so Zach coded or Kara coded, right?
Oh, yeah. That one I do know.
The story? Or you know that word? No,
yeah. That's a phrase I actually understand. I still don't understand what cat means, but...
Yeah. Or gat.
Yeah, I think gat is a butt.
I know. Anyway, I think it was Twin Paranormal. It might have been on the episode I watched for last week's episode that we did. He was like, I just learned what gat means. And he kept saying it and I thought of you. Anyway, totally sidetracked. Okay. On Patreon for What's Up Weirdo, Jessica posted something. I can't remember what it was. And Tenney coded. And all these people thought Tenney died.
God damn it.
And like legit people were like, oh my God. And I think Jessica said that she didn't see it for a while. And then people were texting her like, what's going on?
She just drops in like, Tenney died, and then doesn't look at her phone again. That's amazing.
I thought it was great. So like that would be something that like we would do because it like we're trying to be cool, but like then the people that but she would use it right. But for people that are probably more our age that don't know what that means in slang.
Amazing.
Okay. Anyway, that was awesome.
Well, that's it. So if we have any investigators who listen and you do know more of this, I am obsessed. I want to know more. Tell us more about these weird, like, time slippy things.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I'm not obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with figuring out time.
Figuring it out. All right. Well, while Zach figures it out, can you, all of you, do us the favor of writing into us, give us some ideas, please. We're not necessarily running out, but we are kind of running out in a certain way. We'd love to hear your stories to share, like and subscribe. What else?
I think that's it. I think you need to say the magic words.
All right. Well, I'll do all those things, but most importantly, creep it real, y'all balls.
Goodbye.
Bye.